Hi guys, it's Kieran. I'm going to give you a quick full market update based on my 10 years of market experience, and I'm going to really break down some common myths in this current market. So kicking it off with the Bitcoin price action. We can see from this macro point of view, we had this wedge formation here, and then we broke out. We had another wedge here, and we broke out. And people were expecting another breakout from here to the upside from this compression here, but we actually broke to the downside. Some could argue this is a macro head and shoulders with this shoulder here and a head here and a shoulder here, but it's not the cleanest of structures because the top here is quite close to this one. But we've reached the technical target of this low here, and we actually wick below it. I know a lot of people actually got caught out here because they tried to long a falling knife. And it's always better to actually wait for a break of structure rather than trying to force price action. And if we lose this low here, 24.8k, then there's actually very little on the way till this low here, so 19.5k. So we'll have to wait and see where price action actually goes. So drawing a Fibonacci from the low of this year, so 2023, to the top of this year, we can see how we wick below this 382 Fibonacci, so 25.6. We wicked off it and we went back into the range. So if we lose this 25.6 region, then there's actually very little on the way till the 618, so 22k. So this is a really nice tool to look at because price action often we see time and time again actually respecting these Fibonaccis. And of course, it's very important to look at the weekly Gaussian channel. And we can see how, to the T, we've actually wicked off this mid-band of the Gaussian channel. This is actually very well respected, especially for cryptocurrency, because this top band here was around 28.3, and once we lost that, we actually went to the middle band. So let's really hope that we hold this price action, because if we lose this, then there's actually very little on the way till 20.4k. And the next relevant one is the 5-day chart. So if you can see in the 5-day Gaussian channel, we actually slightly front ran this midpoint. And the question is, do we tap this again, so 24.1k region? One thing I will say particularly is that we've had this huge dump here and the trend is downwards until proven otherwise. And there is some imbalances here. So what I mean by balance is that when you've got a wick here like this and a wick here, sometimes the market actually covers this gap, even to the midpoint at least. But I think for an actual short setup, what I would say is you can see this macro trend line. So we have this first touch point here, second touch point here, and third touch point here. So if we get an actual back test like this of this touch point here, this might be a nice short setup. So this is just something else that I'm actually looking at as well. The session volume profile is also something else I look at. And this is essentially looking at high volume areas from the market based on previous price action. And you can see here, you can see from essentially the red line here, it's like a laser from here. So here, this dump actually tagged all of this. And I actually warned the community actually last Friday how when we dumped here, a lot of people, for example, were trying to catch a falling knife. When we actually got to this point here, so this point, so this point here, I expect us to tag this lower point. And what happened was a lot of people just limited longs here, but then got wrecked. Because it didn't make sense to go this low and not tap the bottom one. So once we tag the bottom one, we actually not consolidating. So we have to wait and see where price goes. All I will say is that if we're going to get a breakdown, I would expect it in the next couple of days. The longer we actually go sideways here, eventually you would expect an actual push up. Because you would expect the bears to really take action now because they've had ample opportunity. But if we go sideways for another 7 days, then it's likely we probably do get a pushback up here again. Looking at the wider markets, so the US dollar index, generally speaking, the US dollar has an inverse correlation to risk on assets like stocks and cryptocurrency. As the dollar goes up, generally these assets generally go down, but not always, but the trend generally does hold true. But we can see how on the daily chart we had some touch points. So first wick here, second wick here, and third wick here. And on the 4 as well, actually, there seems to be a general trend of how series of lower highs, eventually we've broken above this high. And now the question is, do we backtest this support? And then we go to the weekly level 104. And so if we do push up here, then that could be quite bad for risk on assets. So this is something else that I'm looking at. Looking, of course, at the NASDAQ. So the US 100, we had this actual pullback here, which is speaking out to the community. And if you are interested in joining the community, do check out the link in the description. It's the MDX algo indicators you also get, which really is an amazing indicators. You get to see short buy and short signals and also areas of demand and supply. But best of all, it's actually the huge community to be a part of. We have live streams every day as well. But we lost the support region here, so around this 14.9 to 15k. And if we lose this, then there's actually very little on the way to here, but I would expect a bounce now. We've actually had a false breakout of this low here, and so now we've regained it, and so I would expect a brief pullback, and we'll see maybe that does lead to a brief pop-up for Bitcoin as well. I see a lot of correlation between these assets. Then, of course, looking at the S&P 500 index, and it's been an uptrend, and I actually took a nice short here, and it's hit my take profit here, because we had that really high volume area that we tagged here. I took my profit slightly before that, but this is a clear downtrend, so I might expect a brief pullback now. And if we lose this 4.3k region, that can be quite worrying, because then there's actually very little on the way down to here. So this just tells something else I'm looking at. We've actually slightly front ran this high, but it seems that we're at some key Fibonacci levels for a lot of these major indices. So if I draw Fibonacci from this point here to this low here, you can see how we've front ran the 886 Fibonacci and we're back to 618. And so the question is, do we consolidate and push up here, or do we just go back down to 382? So this just tells something else I'm looking at as well. And of course, gold setup as well. And gold is a chart has been going down for, in the 4-hour chart, has been quite bearish for a really, really long time now. You can see here how it's been a clear downtrend here. And looking at from a macro point of view, you've got somewhat of a triple top because you've got this high here and high here and high here. And very often the triple tops generally have a less severe correction from experience than double tops. And so we've actually tagged this and we've backed down to this support line because we had a first touch point here, second touch point here. And then third time we actually went above it and now we back tested it. We got a brief pop up. So I would expect a bit of a mini bounce here at least, maybe at least to this area of resistance. So this supply box here. And then maybe that could be a potential short opportunity as well. So this was the oil setup that I gave in the group. So what happened was I actually limited a long in the short here, but my order didn't get filled because I think there was some discrepancies in the exchange I was using, because sometimes if you're a couple of cents off, you don't get your order filled in. But yeah, this was a successful trade for those that took it. Well done. There's a false break out of this high and we fell back into the range. And so the first take profit's been tagged. And so the question is, do we consolidate here and then bounce back up? We want to look at the total crypto market cap. Total crypto market cap, nothing has really changed. It's still at 1.02 trillion. 1.03 trillion roughly, and we're consolidating here. I don't expect us to get above 1.27 trillion anytime soon, and this is my support box here. This is like a black swan event box. There's no guarantee this is going to happen, but if we do fall here, it'll be a nice discount entry. And of course, Bitcoin dominance. This is essentially the total crypto market cap that's attributed by Bitcoin, and I've drawn essentially this. If you can see, going from back the historic price action here, we had this first touch point here. So in roughly 2017 here. So here, 2016, 2017 is the first touch point. Second touch point was here. And then now we haven't reached this point, but this is what I'm anticipating in the next couple of weeks, months. So this high will be around 57%. The support box on the way up now could be potential resistance. And of course, nothing goes up in a straight line. The problem is that a lot of the newer people in crypto do not actually know what a high Bitcoin dominance looks like. Because a lot of people actually got in quite late, around 2021. But when this happened here from 38% to 63%, this was completely brutal. So this is something I'm looking at. The ETH price action is very interesting. I was speaking to a friend about this, and he was saying how there's actually somewhat of a head and shoulder pattern here. I'm not a huge fan of chart patterns. Very often, I'm more interested in more fine detail. But you can see how we had this shoulder here, head here, and then shoulder here, and we actually breached this. And we actually reached the technical target here. If we lose this, then like similar to Bitcoin, there's actually very little on the way to 1350, 1400 region. So this is just something else that I'm actually looking at as well. Of course, I will be keeping an eye on certain Forex pairs as well. We like to look at those setups once in a while. The New Zealand dollar, particularly, it has been in a particular downtrend here, clear downtrend, and there could be a potential short opportunity as well. I haven't taken it yet, but I'm just trading with the trend for a lot of these pairs. Some of them are a really strong downtrend, particularly in the Australian dollar as well. Guys, thanks a lot for watching. Do check out my other video here, which might address some of the reasons why your trading and investing might be failing. And of course, do leave a comment in the comment section. Really outline what more kind of videos you'd like to see more of from me. Well, thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you soon.